Hello and welcome back to my channel. This will be part 5 on the VW Polo project, and in this video today I will be showing you some parts that I've acquired, so a little teaser video, and that will be showing you that I've got the rear brake shoes ready to go on the back. It will also be showing you the standard rear exhaust box that came with this car and where it's been cut, so you'll be able to see why I've replaced it with another brand new replacement rear box, which I've also got, so I'll be showing that in the video today as well. And after I've done that, there will also be on this video me removing the base box wiring harness, and you can follow me through this. We'll get started now then. So straight away, as I said, on the parts that I got with the car was the standard suspension, the standard wheels and the standard rear exhaust box. This is the exhaust mount that came with it. Still looks like it's brand new, came with a car as part of a standard piece. This will be needing to be used because there is 2 points, one at the back of the car and one slightly further up. That one will be having to go on that end, bolted to the car. I need to get a couple of new bolts for that, and then I can bolt that up and that will hold in place. But this is the standard exhaust that came with the car, brand new as you can see. But so they could fit their aftermarket cherry bomb exhaust, they've cut it off straight away there, and that's what I was referring to in the previous video about I could potentially get my mate to weld it up, but then I'd have to take all the other bit of pipe off, make sure it's lined up, and it's a lot of faffing about for the sake of just replacing the back box with all its pipe work that it should come with as standard. So if we get that out the way a minute, go out here, you will see that I've been to my parts supplier and acquired another brand new part. Still got its labels on it. Brand new clamp just sitting on there, just sitting there waiting to be used. And you'll see straight away that it's getting stuck. It's all still welded onto its bit of pipe that goes all the way over the rear axle and goes partly under the car past the rear axle. So that is the reason why I done that, because the cherry bomb exhaust can just be unbolted and pulled off, and this one can just be put on with some exhaust paste and bolted up nice and tight without needing to faff about with any sort of welder or anything. Also, regarding the handbrake issue, I have sneakily looked at the condition of the rear shoes and found that they are not in fantastic condition. So while I'm adjusting all the handbrake and making sure the handbrake cables are good, I've decided to chuck some new rear shoes on as well, which is what these are. I got these from the parts supplier as well, and that's the ones that the handbrake goes onto, and this is the other side. So obviously in driver's side and passenger side, you'd have one of those and one of those in each side. So one of those and one of those driver's side, one of those passenger side. But we'll do a how-to on that anyway, so that'll be one of my next videos. They were around £30. The exhaust box was around £32. Again, no brainer, just buy it and do it. Easy peasy. And now what we'll do is we'll go on to the next part of this video where we're removing the base box wiring. So on the subject of base box wiring removal, you will notice that I've already pulled all the wiring out from here because I needed it out the way when I was pulling this about. The hole is still there for where the earthing cable went, and it was bolted to a car framework bolt, a car chassis bolt behind the carpet round about there. Come through that, and I've pulled all that out so it's out the way. Right, so we'll go to where I've put it, because I literally just put it the other side of that seat there. And first thing I'd done, because on the first ever video on part 1, where I done an introduction to this car and explained to you guys a list of things that was wrong with it, and told you what was going to be done. The first thing I'd done after that video had been finished was disconnect this wiring harness from the battery end. This is my earthing cable that was bolted up in the back through the side carpet, like I showed you. We've got the audio leads, we've got the red power lead. That was the one that was sparking, but that's completely dead because it's not connected to anything at the other end. And then we've got the final blue wire, which is currently still connected to the back of the radio. So if the radio was to be powered up, that would be positive, which is hence why I've put some tape on it for now as a precautionary measure. But I'm not too worried because I am in the process of, in this video, pulling the head unit out and pulling all this wiring out. That goes just down here through the carpet. That will easily pull out, like so. Not worried if I break the wiring. It's all going in the bin anyway. So move this seat back. Okay, so I'm pulled this carpet down already, and I pulled the lower trim out as well. So that means I can pull all this wiring out here. Okay, and that would be easier, but I pulled the trim off. So where's that going? Oh, it goes underneath there, that's why. So I'll move that carpet back a moment. Undo that hook as well. There we go, I can see it's going under there. So bear with me a second, I'll pull that out and I'll bring you back in to what I'm doing. So as promised, this is all the wiring pulled out from underneath that black bracket there. So if I now hook that carpet back over there where it goes, hook that carpet back over there where that goes, I can then move that bit of carpet out the way, so that can go back over there like that. This trim can now, how does this clip back on? Just sits on top of those, don't know if we'll be able to see, but it just sits on top of those clips there and pushes down into there. And do that all the way along. That's that. Door seal can now go back in. I will say this car's got a nice thick door seal. Could have probably done with having my tripod really. Didn't think. So that's getting pushed down all the way. Tuck that back under there as well. It's been more of a pain in the backside than I was hoping it to be, but it's alright. Get there in the end. Now that's all back up and nice and neat. So where that's all done, all the way along, that's all put back. I've pushed the carpet back, and I've just got to push that last little bit back there as well, because I was going to show you in the engine bay where this wire was left off, but I accidentally ended up pulling it out of the hole that's up there. I ain't going to be able to show you because it's behind the carpet somewhere. But that was where it disconnected. Now, this wiring, as I said at the back, was sparking because it was still connected to the battery. This is the battery end, but what was on the end of here, I'll go and get it, I'll show you. What was on the end of that cable I'll show you on now, yeah? So that cable, if I can get you in there. Right, let me see if I can get the camera right in there. That cable came through this hole just here. And when it came through this hole just here, it sat, as you can see the hole down there at the bottom of the, in the middle of the screen. Focus. Right in the middle of the screen, just there. It came up over this pipe just here, which is attached to a water bottle, and then it attached to an 80 amp fuse. This fuse just pulled off of the wire. It practically fell off in my hands. It has got Allen key bolts inside. Allen key bolts inside to hold the wiring in place. Now, if you see that, they are quite wound down, so they probably were at one point quite tight, but they've obviously worked their way loose because it practically, like I said, this practically fell off in my hands. 80 amp fuse. The other side of that fuse was then attached to this shorter piece of wire, which is currently sitting on the top. I don't know what's going on. My phone's had an update, but for some reason it's just taken ages to focus on anything. This end was on the battery. Like I said, that was the first thing I'd done, was disconnect that. And this end up here was in the other end of this fuse. Now, so obviously where all that pretty much fell apart, that wasn't particularly that great either, as far as that's concerned. Right, back into the car. Let's just put that down there. Shut the bonnet, don't need that open anymore. So now we have the red wire can come completely out the way. That one's done, finished with. Now all we've got is the two blue wires. One of which is an audio cable, and the other one is power feed from the radio, a switch-in live power feed to tell the amp on the bass box when to switch on and when to switch off. So, as you can see here, this radio was all set back in the top point. It did have the tray in, the tray was literally where the radio was, and the radio was up higher. I've pulled it all out. It literally just come out in my hands because it's not very secure. And I've got some heat shrink, so when we disconnect this wire from the radio, we're going to trim it and heat shrink it. Snips, because I'm going to trim, like I said, I'm going to trim the wire off. And where is it? Flathead screwdriver, because I'm actually going to take the cage off of the radio, bend the lugs round and fit the radio much more securely than it was fitted, because it literally was loose in there. It was just a case of pull the shelf bit out by hand quite easily. This then dropped down and pretty much fell on my knees because I'd taken the shelf bit out. So we'll get to the point of removing this now, which is, as you can see in here, there's a blue wire with a white line on it. Blue wire with a white line on it attaching to this blue wire that goes out the car. I'm just going to literally pull that one off, and then I can pull that one out. Gone. Now finally we have the aerial cable that's fallen out as well, but that's not a problem. The audio cables, 1 and 2, that's now disconnected and they're up there. That can now be pulled straight out, and that wire can be gone as well. Come on, phone. You was better than this on the last recording. Like I said, I had an update last night. So now there is a blue wire here with a yellow line on it. I would reference a wiring diagram and work out what that is, but I can't bother because the radio actually works fine. You'd have to take my word for it. I'm not going to show you the radio working because there's too many rules and regulations with copyright stuff. So you'd have to take my word for it, but the radio does work fine. This is the other side of the blue and white wire, which is there. So as you can see, that's bare wire now. I've just pulled that tape off. Not a problem, because we're going to trim that, like I said, and do that. Now on here is, where's the other end of that blue and yellow? I can't find another end of that blue and yellow. You know what, I'm going to take this wiring harness out because it unclips up the top here, and it'll unclip from the radio, and we'll just work on this wiring harness separately from, so I haven't got the radio weight on it. Bring you back in 2 seconds. And just like that, through the magic of editing, we have now got the radio removed with all the leads plugged in there. We have the radio on the floor temporarily with the cage off, because I was going to put the cage in first so I can do all these little lugs and bend them back. As you can see, none of these lugs have been bent back whatsoever to secure the radio. So that will go back in like that. I have also worked out that this blue and white and the blue and white, that his end, which had the sub power feed on it, is a controlled live for the radio to switch on the sub. None of this will be needed because we haven't got a sub going in the car, we haven't got a powered aerial, we haven't got any of that coming. So I'm literally going to put some, trim that off, put some heat shrink on that. I'm not going to trim that one because it's already nice and flush. Just put some heat shrink on it. Now this odd wire, which was yellow and blue, there isn't another wire on here for it. It is just an odd wire. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. I believe it might be some, no, it's not an illumination wire. The orange ones are illumination, I believe. So I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but I'm going to put some heat shrink on that. And like I said, I'm not going to trim that because it's already trimmed nice and neat anyway. So we'll get this harness sorted and tidied up, so that wire's not going to touch anything. So if I put that on the floor, and literally go like that, that trims that up. And actually I am going to try and set my tripod up because this is going to be really tricky otherwise. Right, so I have now set the tripod up. As you can see, I have now trimmed that off, so it's no longer got bare copper wire showing. These two will get heat shrinked, that one will get heat shrinked, and then we'll put that back on the back of the radio and install the radio. So I'll just get some heat shrink. Right, so right, 1, 2, 3 bits of this. Close that up. So 3 bits of heat shrink. And we'll need the lighter as well now. Obviously I use a lighter to melt it into place. So if we now put that onto there. Right, so that is now tacky. That has got a bit of a tail on it, but it's fine. I'm not worried about that. I'll squish that flat. That ain't going to come off. Nice and secure. Bit of heat shrink. Worst case scenario, if someone does want to use that wire, they can just slice that off. and reuse it. Let's do this one. Right, squish that flat as well. Right, so that one's done the same. Nice bit of heat shrink on that one. Third and final wire. I'm leaving little bits of tail on them as well, just to make them a bit, they don't need to be completely done. And yeah, I could cut the heat shrink down, but there's no need, I've got plenty of it. Squish that flat as well, ouch. Gets hot very quickly. It's fine. It is a powerful lighter at the end of the day. Let's just get... So that's that one done. Right, so that's the harness. In my eyes, safe. Not going to touch any of these wires. None of these wires are actually needed because, like I said, you guys have to take my word for it, but the radio does work fine. And I may show you that in the video that it's working fine, but obviously you guys won't hear anything because I'll have the volume down on 0 because I don't want to get done for any copyright or anything. So, now the next plan is to set you up so you can see the where I'm installing. So let's just do that. I was going to set this tripod up, so let's just do that now. Right, so now you will on the screen have a clear image of where the radio is about to go. And what I'm going to do is plug this harness back in. I hope the camera stays in focus because I physically can't see the screen. So I apologise if my focus issues actually come to light again. But so that's all plugged in nicely. This will be, I don't need heat shrink anymore, so that can shut that down out of the way. Don't need clippers either. So that wiring harness can go through there. This cage can go up the top here. So I could probably put it down the bottom, but I'd rather it be in the top. So let's just push some of these tabs up here into place. And push that one back. Push that one back. That one can go over there as well. These ones I'm doing on the side, there is like a little shelf lip running all the way underneath it. The ones at the bottom on the side here and here are going to stop it from dropping as well as hold it securely. So there, well, that hasn't worked, has it? It's just yeah, that is sort of working. So the other thing is, once the radio's in there, I've had radios pinched out of cars in the past. I've had sat-navs pinched, windows broken. I've heard stories of all sorts coming about with people like leaving valuables in the car. Anything's possible this day and age. Don't trust anybody is my motto. So based on that, you want to make it as high. If they're going to break in for a radio, you want to make it as not that they. I don't know. I wouldn't break into a car for a radio. How cheap they are anyway. Now I know I said this is a half decent radio, but I only said it's a half decent radio because it is a JVC USB CD radio, so it's much better than the old cassette that would have probably been in here when it was new. So that can now go there. It can lift slightly for that. And then we will now put this into there. Don't know if you can hear that, but it was setting itself up because it's got power. Aerial port in there. We will put this in loosely. No, it's right. Well, obviously there's issues with the wiring. The aerial cable is literally just popping straight off as soon as I push it in. So that's going to be no good as far as I'm concerned, because I need it to stay there. Change of plan. That did just fall out of my hands once before. The idea is pull this back out and I can kind of make sure I know where the wiring's going. And yep, as suspected, the aerial cable's come out again. How on earth did it stay in there in the first place? No idea. Sorry you can't see much, but just trying to reposition all this wiring so the head unit can actually sit nice and snugly in there, like so. And it's going to be next to impossible for me to show you, regardless of whether... So that has now clipped in to its location. Aerial cable's still connected, which is fantastic news. And the actual radio wiring harnesses, obviously they're still connected, but they feel loose enough to give enough manoeuvre. Let's put the surround on. Fascia. And finally the shelf. So, job done. Right, so I'm going to wrap this video up here, and but before I go, I will say, anyone who has seen part 1 to this VW Polo project will see how annoyed I got with how this base box wiring was left in this vehicle. And my reasonings behind why I was so annoyed is because early in my driving career and early in my modifying and fixing and maintaining vehicles sort of scenario, and with me learning myself, obviously when you're learning you make mistakes, I actually did have to remove a base box from one of my earlier vehicles and leave the wiring. It was a white Skoda estate, and it was for the purpose of having to move some stuff about. I needed the space, I needed the seats down, I needed all the space I had. Now that was only a tiny little base box, because I've never been one of these for big power, shake the car to bits sort of bass. I've always been into having just enough that the little speakers in the car can't handle, and having just a little one just for the sake of giving me that little bit of extra bass that, like I said, the car speakers can't handle it. So that was a very low ampage cable setup. It was running on a 30 amp fuse, which was more than enough for what I needed, but not too much. And I believe I'd taped the wire to give, or was it the tape come off while I was putting stuff in and out of the back of the car, and half hour later I didn't realise they were sparking and the car caught light. I managed to save the vehicle to a certain degree, but it did manage to kill the battery because the fuse didn't blow. I also ended up having to lose all the rear carpet in the back of the car, and I had to have part of the wiring for the rear lights rewired and redone because I lost the function of some of my rear lights because it had gone through wires there as well. Now, I have found images of that, what happened. They are, as I said, it's early on in my career of doing this and early on in my driving career. So they are from an old BlackBerry QWERTY keyboard BlackBerry smartphone, one of the early ones. So the image quality isn't that great, but you will be able to see what they're like, and I will insert those images at the end of this video for you to see. And then when you see that, you will understand why I got so annoyed, because something as simple as a decent bit of tape, or something as simple as disconnecting it from the battery end, which I should have done those years ago myself, isn't hard to do. Takes all of 2 seconds to disconnect it from the battery, and it can save a whole world of pain. Now, another thing is as well, that car also took me nearly 3 days to clean the inside because of how sooted out it was and how badly it smelt, just for the sake of having a few little flames in there for about 5 minutes. Right, also on the subject of this video though, the radio I have tested is working fine. I can't say much in regards to the speakers that are in this car. They're a bit naff, if I'm honest, because they are still standard Volkswagen paper coned speakers, and they have given up. They are crackling a little bit. So if there is some money left in my budget, I may replace them, because I'm all about quality of sound and being able to listen to music. And now I know this is a plan to fix it and flog it on to a new driver, and my initial aspects of doing this is to do it as cheap as I can, because I haven't got pots of money and money to throw it at left, right and centre. So my main aim is to make sure it's safe and usable for the next owner. So basically what I mean by that is, if I don't get time or can't afford to replace the door speakers to ones that work better than what's in there, it won't happen. But it is what it is. You can't have a bargain project without having to scrimp on things. And like I say, that's why I'm going to do the brakes, that's why I'm doing the exhaust, that's why I've done the suspension. And I will be doing a full service on it as well. It's going to get a brand new MOT, so we'll know that it's safe to be on the road for that aspect of things. And I have still got to sort out the steering wheel, the airbag, light, double check there's no other codes on there, and if there is, remedy them. Also, there is another couple of MOT failures on this car which I have spotted. The horn doesn't work, but then I will maybe find out what's wrong with that when I remove the airbag to check the connections on that. And the headlights are cloudy and hazy, and there's moisture in the passenger side front indicator. So there's still a fair few jobs to be done on this before it can go to the MOT centre and be MOT'd. But anyway, enough of me boring you to death with me chatting away. I will upload the images into the end of this clip, like I said. I will say bye for now. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up. Sorry. If you like what I'm doing on the channel, subscribe to my channel. And if you want to keep up to date with all the notifications of when I upload new videos, make sure you ring the bell icon. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.